May I hear from 3 or 4 people or different tables share information about how it might be changed and you might use it, and then your learning. What did you think about using the Invention app as a learning tool?
I'm thinking about...
Sherry, would you be first? Okay, number 1, who else would share with me? Person 2, who else? Thank you. Person 3. Okay, stand up. Or you not actually get up. You got real loud.
I'm just thinking about when I look at a couple of our findings, they might be sensitive for staff because they believe they are doing it well, so it might be a sensitive topic. And I think this might be a fun and engaging way to maybe celebrate, here is what you know, and yet they can learn from each other, maybe what they're not doing.
Okay, so it could be used in that way. What I heard as your facilitator is lots of laughter. I saw people interacting. I saw people engaging. People were looking on their phones. They were thinking about functions and using the information that you had gleaned in some way. Thank you. Person 2?
Jen shared that this was an activity that really, whenever we do these things, and you do so well, Derek, but helping us reflect, how can this be used as a tool to take back into the classroom or back in the staff meeting? And so this was an activity that provided kind of some concrete language, yet expanded vocabulary around these 3 pieces, but not in worksheet form, but visual and just really concrete.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, remember, our job is always modeling for others. That's what we do. So when we are teaching and facilitating, we want our principals to be using these same things in staff meetings and other places. So therefore, it might be used in the classroom as well, right? Okay, in some way. Who is person 3?
I was.
Thank you.
So we talked a lot about, well, I'm trying not to turn my back to anyone.
It's hard to do in this room.
It is. So we talked about there being a lot of power in the activity, but as with any tool, being very intentional about where you're placing it, we thought it might detract from new learning. So because the activity is pretty time intensive, and so we also thought if we had some time at the end, it'd be a great organized and integrated activity at the end of the day. But if we're running short, then maybe that's not the one we pick because it's about a 10-minute activity. So we kind of talked about what some conditions would they be using.
So I hear 2 things. One, that we need to make it visual in some way for learning to go on, but also we're capturing what's happening right now, but as the learning changes, we need to make sure we're coming back at it.
Sure. Yeah.
Accurate or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. Let's close out this part. We'll leave these charts up so at break you might have a chance to see and enjoy some of the other apps that I got to hear from people do. The next thing we're going to do is practice these 3 Ps. We're going to practice pausing. We're going to practice paraphrasing. We're going to practice posing some questions in triad groups. For this activity, you might want to bring your yellow question sheet. You definitely need your blue graphic organizer and a pen. And if you look up here, you're going to form triads with people who are not at your table. So you're going to go somewhere in the room with people that are trying not to be at your table, but you'll form a small fire group, knee to knee, just like this, the way that I have these chairs organized as a 3 triad. So before I ask you to self-organize, what questions might you have or clarity do you need about what you need to bring and what you're going to look like once you get into your small fire triad group? Okay, self-organize, go. I'll check in just about 1 minute. Go fast, go. Coordinators, I might need one of you. I'm not sure about our triads. Go. It's causing you with your facilitator to meet up and discuss some kind of problem of practice, issue, or situation. So I'll give you a minute to think about what that is. And as former administrators or current administrators, I'm sure it's not going to be a topic one. Okay? Person B, you get to be the person practicing. You're the HIL facilitator. You're practicing the pausing. You're paraphrasing in this dialogue. You are posing the questions. Okay? Person C, get out your pen or writing instrument and the blue sheet. And what you can do is use that with the open space on the right-hand side is when you notice pausing, you put a check maybe behind one of the types that you see or here, keep a tally. You might also do the same with paraphrasing with the 3 different types. And then you might list out some of the questions that you hear. We'll have 6 minutes for the problem of practice and dialogue conversation. Then we'll have 2 minutes for the person C to share their feedback information. And then we'll switch, okay? So what questions do you have or what clarity do you need about what you'll do right now? A, you've got the problem. B, you're the facilitator practicing. C, you're taking a note. Ready? Go.
So you're concerned now that we have these other initiatives going on, and now I'm coming in as a HIL project, and it just seems to be working for
Worried about the one pass or not. You know, we've gone down too many passes, too many initiatives.
So you see that there could be taking different paths with each one of these initiatives, but it just seems to have to blend together and align and contribute to one another.
That's actually a really good question.
Not from me. So they haven't had negative feedback from me regarding I've asked questions as far as how do you feel about your reading instruction? I've even asked, would you like to see some other teachers in their university? And they come up with many reasons why they can't do it.
So I guess what I'm hearing is like the underlying tone of they're resistant to it for some reason. And so I'm also understanding the fact that it hasn't necessarily been shared with us in a specific is that accurate? So what do you think in your mind?
When they have shared, that's what the Midwest trying they're working for every kid.
And I know at the rounds, we were talking to someone from our ISD, and she mentioned something about a tiered fidelity inventory. And so that'll help us see, I think, how that system is going to be put together. So right now, other than ISS, we don't really have a system.
Okay. Well, I think some of your next steps words that is a lot of time. We have a lot of time here. Okay. And I get that card for second one. Okay.
I won in 1995, right? All right, person C, you have 2 minutes. Share your observations and feedback with person B. Go. Time? I was trying not to be the bad guy. Slicing time would do the work. Okay, listen. Person B, your turn to have the problem of practice. So person B, you're the principal this time. Person C, you're the facilitator. Person A, get ready with your observation sheet, prepared to take notes and feedback. B, you've got the practice of problems. You're the principal or administrator or teacher leader. Person C, you're the facilitator. You're the HIL facilitator. And person A, observation feedback. 6 minutes, go. Time, please. Thank you. We'll have some quick processing reflection time. Okay, here's what my notes say. Person C, it's your turn to have the problem of practice to be the principal, teacher, leader, administrator. Person A, your turn to be the facilitator, okay? And person B, you're taking notes and observations. C, what are you? C, what are you? Problem. Person A, what are you? Facilitator. Person B, what are you? Go. 6 minutes. Sorry. You got it. Are you driving with anybody so you can talk about that on the way home? Okay, 2 minutes quickly. This is person B. You are sharing your feedback and observations. Go. Thank you.
Have you tried yoga? But you were really good about checking in. Did I get that right? So then you have to clarify functions, so that's what I want to get your search saying. And I don't really pay attention to and you wanted to do the first thing, teachers so really good paraphrasing. That was the question I did. Yeah, specific clarification. I was ready.
I'm going to take a big fire hose and put all these little fires in front of us. Lots of small fires all over the place. Okay, after this, so quick reflecting and processing. We're going to have a break, and then we'll move on with the rest of our day. But I want you to have time now in your triad to just talk about what did you learn? What did you learn about yourself and your ability to be pausing, paraphrasing, and posing questions? Remember, you're giving feedback and observation, but guess what? That's what a facilitator does too. So you'll be doing that as well. So talk in your group about, well, talk, dialogue, practice again, those 3 Ps as you are having a dialogue about what did you learn? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about this process and how you might be able to apply it and use it as you're teaching somebody else about being a better listener. Okay? Just about 2 or 3 minutes. Go. Please, I have your eyes my way.
That's probably why, that's where you're looking for the worst.
So yeah, your idea about that might be something.
Smokey says, only you can prevent small group fights.
Were they heard?
All right, let's finish this learning. And may I hear from 3 or 4 people? What did you talk about? Who has something they would like to share that they heard in their group or they'd like to do? Person 1. Person 2, Karen, thank you. Person 3 back here. Another Karen. Anyone else? Person 4, 5. Go. Stand up, need oxygen. Let's go.
I found out that in my role as a facilitator, I was more worried about what I was going to say next than really listening to the comments and the concerns. So I kind of blew off, not intentionally, I kind of blew off what she was sharing, the problem that she had, because I was already on to the next question or whatever it was. And so obviously that's something not to do. Listen carefully, acknowledge their concern, and not be, it's not about you, it's about, you know, the person that you're working with. So I learned that.
For only $19.95, you can have the new training for NASP and mentor certification. They're all principals and administrators. We come to this word, problem solving, and thinking about the what ifs, what's next. We've talked before, when a teacher comes to you and says, I need to see you, we're thinking, oh my God, is she leaving me? Is she pregnant? What's going on? And so it's stopping that. And remember what the mentor piece is. Number 1 rule, listen. Number 2, ask more questions. Number 3, don't make it enemy. Thank you. Person 2.
What was number 3?
Thanks, Karen.
Kind of cool once you start working with the principals that we would come back to these little fire circles and actually play our principal who were struggling over an issue. And then the people can sort of ask some questions. And it'd be twofold. 1, for a minute, you get to wear the clothes of that principal to see, oh, I see what they're thinking, and can kind of be more empathetic. And then 2, if you hear some of the questions that came out, you'd say, oh, I never even thought to ask that question.
So you're suggesting that in the future, an activity might be that you bring a problem to practice, you get to practice that, and then have some people practice with questions that you don't think about. It also puts you into that, what it feels like to have that problem.
You paraphrase that well, and you also organize me.
I'm trying to get my vocabulary on. Yes, all right. Good person 3. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, so when I was the facilitator, I did not paraphrase. I went straight to asking questions that were going to solve the problem.
Okay.
And I did a perfect job, too. You know, but Becky pointed out that the paraphrasing helps the person solve their own problem. And then I was principal, and she was my facilitator, and she paraphrased me, and I solved my own problem. And it felt really wonderful, and illustrated her point, which is really good for me as helping me remember to quit trying to solve the problem and start paraphrasing, because that really is more powerful.
Thank you.
So those 2 things were together very good.
Wow, thank you. Great insight. Paraphrasing is a gift. It shows that we're really listening to what somebody has to say to us, and we're not trying to get that out of our head. And it also clarifies to make sure that we're really understanding and figuring out what's being done. And the person gets to solve their own problem. We don't have to do it. Awesome. Who is person 4? Thank you. I'm sorry, remind me of your first name. We're really working here. Thank you.
Inside our group, we found that nervousness became part of what we were doing. That's a real life situation. Also, our lack of constantly doing this repetitively in an environment turned up repetitive words to begin our paraphrasing, like the word so, or the fact that we wouldn't pause nearly as much as we should have. Sometimes you'd hear a which was an auditory reminder of that person to pause. And so, again, as you've heard, bringing real life situations back in here,
Okay.
and maybe changing into other groups, and maybe also, maybe I think we might be all doers in this group. So we just jumped, pausing was like, if a half second happened, that's a big one.
Thank you. So you're also reiterating that it'd be good for us to try this again.
Yes.
Make sure we have mixed groups so that we don't have all the doers ready to solve the problems all in one group, which could be helpful. Just to close this out, many people say, oh, I've had cognitive coaching training for 10 years, you know, I've got all the skills that I can do it. But this is when we get right into the work, right there, isn't it? It's about taking these skills with you and doing it right there. So some people make small 4x6 cards. Don't forget the 3 Ps. Maybe you'll take one of the apps and remind you. Maybe you'll keep the blue sheet and say, before I go in, I want to remind myself, I got to pause, I got to paraphrase, I got to pose questions in an affirmative way. I've got to make sure that I'm doing those things. We didn't even get to nonverbal cues, where people might have had their legs crossed or arms crossed or things like that. We're just assuming that you're positioning in, you're listening, and you're doing all those things that we need to do. All right? It is 1:45, and so we're going to take a 10-minute break, back in seats at 2 to 3 for the rest of our learning today. Hasn't this been gone quickly?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank your fire crew. Put out your fire, fan out.